Whew. Just wait for a few people to tune in, and then we'll get into the Port Adelaide game, talk about the team and who's come in, who's come out. G'day, Saners. If you've already seen the team, feel free to comment your thoughts and we'll talk about it. It's a couple of straightforward ones that we kind of expected, but there's one there that, didn't expect, so we'll talk about it. Kieran, I agree with you, mate. Bytel, a bit unlucky. I don't know why he was dropped. He was great against West Coast, very stiff to not get nominated for the Rising Star. I'm just looking at his stats last week. Not his best game, but there were so many others that were worse. So to pick him out when he's our future, we need him. We need him going, well in the next couple of years for us to be a really good team. To drop him, it's a bit stiff when Port Adelaide have got quite a strong midfield, when they've got a player like Ollie Wines, they've got Boak, Rose going through there, Amon as well. We need to be physical in this game, as well as enough on the outside. And I know that during the week, Rats did talk about that he thought that we were a bit too heavy in the middle last week. We were a bit too slow, a bit too physical, and didn't really have that many players on the outside that could hurt Richmond. And he basically put his hand up and said selection was wrong. He shouldn't have picked Dunstan to replace someone like Zach Jones. And he potentially would have picked someone like a Ryan Burns, but he was coming off an injury, so it would have been silly to put Burns in against Richmond. But he got through Sandy today, as did Paddy Ryder. I posted his stats. He had 18 disposals, 32 hitouts, kicked a goal, 5 marks, 3 tackles, and from all reports was basically only a half that he played. But he had a great game, so Paddy Ryder gets the tick, fully fit, and so he'll be playing next week, which is great news. But our focus is on tomorrow. We do get Rowan Marshall back. That's a massive one. So we'll go through the team now. So we've got Rowan Marshall, Zach Jones in, which we expected. They both would have played last week if it was a 7-day turnaround, but it was 5, so Rats said that it was just too soon and we didn't want to risk either of them, and fair enough. We got belted. I don't know how much of a difference they would have made. It could have been a big difference, but we'll never know. But we've got them back now. We get Paddy Ryder back next week, so we're slowly getting some troops back, which means that we can hopefully get our best team on the park and in turn produce our best football. So Rowan Marshall, Zach Jones back. The interesting one is Dara Joyce. I genuinely am not sure why he's playing, but the only reason why I think he might be playing is because we don't have Paddy Ryder and we don't have the double ruck, so to speak. We're going to play Jake Carlisle. I'm going to envision that there's going to be periods where we want to play Rowan Marshall forward to exploit their... they've got some injuries, Port Adelaide have got some injuries. They've been able to cover them with some good results, but their backline with Burton, Cleary, Alira has been in outstanding form. Hamish Hartlett's not the tallest bloke. Tom Jonas is good, but can be got at. And then Darcy Byrne-Jones is more of a small forward type of player. So I think that the logic is Joyce is probably going to play back when Carlisle's in the ruck, and that still means that we can put Rowan Marshall forward. So I think it's just that flexibility. If Paddy Ryder was fit, you'd say that Paddy Ryder plays and Joyce doesn't play, but I think that it's just flexibility. And it means that when we move Carlisle out of the back line, we're not going to have the lack of height like we did against Richmond, because we just got exposed there. And hopefully that means someone like Caulfield can play more of the intercepting game that he hasn't been able to do so far. And we can get that structure back to what we did so well last year. We had players in key positions. They played the majority of the season, and we got sort of chemistry, and everyone knew what was going on. This year, we've had injuries to very important players in key positions, which is even worse, and we've struggled to adapt to the new game plan and to the new style of football. And there's just been a lot of inconsistency across the board, all over the park. So Joyce isn't the first picked, but I think it's just more structure focused, this selection. And I don't think, unless he has just a blinding game, I don't think he's going to be a player that's going to play many games this year. But hopefully, it's a big game for us tomorrow. He does the job because they've got a decent forward line. You look at Charlie Dixon, they've got Georgiades, and I think they've got Todd Marshall there that can rest forward. So they've got some tools there. And I think that's why we needed to bring in Joyce, because they've got some tools. We needed that extra height, especially if we want to play Rowan Marshall forward, because I doubt that he plays a full game in the ruck. So that's from their side. From our side, Frederick is making a debut for Port Adelaide, so they don't have any major changes. They've lost Lockie Jones and Sam May. The emergencies for us are Bytel, Highmore, Mason Wood, and Sean McKernan. Bytel, he has to be the sub. I think it's the most obvious choice. We need a mid rotation, and he's a big body. He can play outside, he can play inside, he can go forward. He's got that flexibility, and Rats does like to have a player that's flexible as the emergency. So I think it's a logical choice from that point of view. I'll go through, I've seen a few comments. People want to hear the team in full. I'll just go from back to front. This is on the AFL website, so positions are probably going to change come the first bounce tomorrow, but this is going from the back line. Fullbacks, Dougal Howard, Cal Wilkie, Ben Long. Halfback flank, Hunter Clark. Centre halfback, Jake Carla, where we want him all the time. Nick Caulfield, the other flank. Then you've got across the centre line, Jack Sinclair on one wing, Brad Crouch in the centre, Brad Hill on the other wing. Half forward, you've got Dan Butler, Josh Battle, Jack Higgins. And then closer, deeper into the forward line, full forward, you've got Max King, Tim Membry, Jack Billings, which is great. I've always wanted to see Billings more as a forward. That's where I think he's most damaging. Followers, we've got Rowan Marshall, Jack Steele, Seb Ross, Interchange, Joyce, Mackenzie, Zach Jones, and Jack Loney. And then, as I said, emergencies, Bytel, Highmore, Mason Wood, Sean McKernan. So that's the team. That team is good enough to win most games of footy. Genuinely good enough. It's here that we need to fix. We've had basically 10 days to sort our shit out. I saw on Friday Max King on Chapel Street having an ice cream with his girlfriend. I had a few messages from some woman that saw the 12 or 13 of the boys at a restaurant getting together and just kind of hopefully, getting that chemistry going and that bond that we seem to lack on the field, just to get away from football, to hang out again as teammates, and to hopefully just talk about what they can do to improve and to just relax. Because we're 2-3, it's easy to just go crazy like we did at the Richmond game. That review for me was bloody tough. All the hate on Brad Hill. There's a lot of negativity around the footy club in the last 10 days. But it could all just disappear if we put in a good performance tomorrow night. Whether that gets the win or not, I don't think any of us really care. We just want to see the boys play 4 quarters of tough football, and if the result swings our way, fantastic. If it doesn't, at least the effort's there. At least we're building towards something. So that's the focus. Basically, the extension of what I talked about in the review and what we talked about in the podcast. We just want the boys to rock up and play hard, tough football. And if Port Adelaide win, fine. But we want them to get off the ground and think, shit, St Kilda gave us a tough game tonight. We're sore. That's the footy that we gave last year. Even when we didn't win, apart from a couple of games, we fought hard, we hit players hard, and we had periods in games where we played very good football and just didn't get the win. So I think that we've got the team tomorrow night. It's all about the mentality. If we go there and think we can win, then we're a big shout. We've got good form on that ground. We played there twice last season. We beat Port Adelaide there. Massive last quarter. Max King kicked a clutch goal at the end, and we won by nearly 5 goals, I think. So we've got history there. I think it's good to get away from Marvel. I think, if anything, it's good to get away from Melbourne and travel and be the underdog again. We've struggled with the expectation, and I think this gives us that sort of hub vibe that we played so well in last year. And it's come at a perfect time for us. So I'm excited. I'm flying over there tomorrow morning. I'll be there cheering hard, planning to go to every interstate game this season. So it's great that we managed to organise it pretty early. So we'll be there in one of the bays, top level 4 or 5, whatever it is, with the Saints fans, and hopefully we'll be there and cheering hard deep into the 4th term. So big game. I think we can get the win. I'm not going to tip us. I'm not going to tip Port either. I'm just going to go there with limited expectation and just go there and hope that we put in a good performance. It's on Anzac Day, all the emotion. We don't really need an excuse to show up. You want to do that every week, but if there's ever a game that you want to do it in, it's a game tomorrow night on Anzac Day. Last game of the round as well. So a lot of people are going to be watching. The media is going to be watching St Kilda like a hawk. They want to see us fall over, and I want us to basically just put the finger up and say, fuck you guys. We've got it in us to turn the season around. Because we've already seen it. Sydney copped it to Gold Coast. They got belted today. West Coast got belted by nearly 100 points. The excuses that they gave West Coast was phenomenal. Injuries, this and that. Geelong just amazing. If it was us, it would have been all about effort, how shit we are. The season's done. With West Coast, with any other team, they pull out the excuses. We don't get the ease in the media like a lot of other clubs. But that's what I love, is that we can really, if we show up tomorrow, we can shut up all the haters. I hope Brad Hill has a massive game. I hope players that have copped it from us, from the media all week, have a massive game where we can just enjoy footy for 4 quarters and not turn the TV off at halftime, like I know a lot of people have done in recent weeks this year. So that's enough from me, guys. I'm going to go through some of these comments, so just bear with me. I'm going to scroll all the way to the top. I might even do it over here. It might be a bit easier. And yeah, hopefully the comments aren't as negative as as the review last week. But let's see. Hunter says, you've got to love the dedication for Jake going to every game and doing this every week. Absolute legend. That's from Hunter. Thanks so much for that. Hopefully we get a big away contingent to the game tomorrow. And yeah, I think that's the big thing, is we don't want it to feel like an away game. We were so good at it against GWS in round 1. We got a lot of people to the game. It was really loud when we got on top. So I'm really hoping that we can do it again. This one's from Where's Highmore. Yeah, good question. I mean, we brought in Joyce, but Highmore, has been talked about as a Wilkie 2.0 intercept player like Caulfield with good ball skills, and we saw that in a couple of games this year. He's very good by foot. Bit inconsistent. I don't know how he went for Sandy. I don't know if he even played. I think it was because his emergency. But hopefully we see a bit more of him later in the year. And it's just good to have him if we cop any injuries. Fingers crossed we don't. But it's good to have him in the wings ready to go. And he's already got a couple of games experience. Billings may be out. I heard that he hurt his foot, similar injury to Rowan Marshall, and played out the game last week. So it's massive from him. I've heard that Hunter Clark also had to get a COVID test recently, and he's been in bed for a bit of the week with the flu, so I don't know what happened there, but I assume it's all good. They said he should be fine by tomorrow night, but fingers crossed he's not a late out, because I could see someone like Bytel sneaking in as an emergency while Hunter Clark gets the week off because he's had the flu. But he had a massive game for us last year against Port, so we need Hunter Clark. For a chance, we need players like him having massive games tomorrow night. Cooper Gresh, all right. Ben Long and Joyce, what a laugh, taking the piss, fucking ridiculous. Yeah, I think Ben Long's a bit lucky to play this week, to be honest. He had a shit game last week, and I called it. He came on, and he was just a deer in headlights. He had no idea what was going on, but it is what it is. I'm not going to get pissed off before we even bounce the ball. I know that people wanted Brad Hill dropped, they wanted Ben Long, Joyce dropped, but we dropped, Dunstan came out, Hunter came out. We didn't want to drop that many players, I don't think. We had players coming back from injury, so that was already forcing some changes. And we lost Webster, so we need someone in the back pocket. We don't have anyone if Ben Long doesn't play. So you've got to look at how the structure is. We've lost Patton, we don't have Geary, we've lost Webster. There's no one else there that can play the small forward role. And Ben Long is like the 3rd or 4th option in that position, so we have to go with him until we get a Webster or Geary back. And Geary was running laps this week at training, so he's not actually that far away. But until then, I think we're going to have Ben Long, so we're going to have to cop that and hope that he plays a good game for us tomorrow night. Joyce, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. Like I said, I think that he's just a stopgap this week, and once we get Paddy Ryder back, Frawley, I believe, is a couple of weeks away, and he's looking good. Geary as well. We're going to get some defensive minded players back, we'll be okay. Andrew says, regardless of players named, let's hope the boys are going to turn up. Exactly right, Andrew. And I think that's all we can ask for. And we can be negative about last week and the games that we've played shit at, but I don't want us to go into even just tonight being in a negative mindset, because that already sets up the team for failure. We need to go there tomorrow night and cheer them on and clap them out and be fully supportive of the club. I know that last week was very frustrating, and the Essendon game and the Melbourne game, and just in general, our football hasn't been great this season, but we've shown against West Coast that our best is very good. We've already won away from home. We did it last year twice at this ground, so we've got history there. We can go into this game with some sort of confidence, knowing that the tools that we've got on the field, the players that we're going to play tomorrow night, are good enough to beat Port Adelaide, because they've already done it in the last 12 months. And Port have got injuries. They've had a few wins. They're probably due for a loss, to be honest. They copped it a few weeks ago against West Coast, but they played last week and got the win against Carlton. Weren't at their best, but they got the win and copped a few injuries there as well. So hopefully we go into this game with confidence, knowing that if we play our best, we can win the game. Radley says, we need to protect our percentage. Another smashing and it's as good as dead. That's the sort of mentality we can't go into tomorrow night in. We can't go in thinking, shit, if we lose, we can't get smashed. Let's go in just backing ourselves, backing the boys, take the game on. Because I think, if anything, we can run Port Adelaide off their legs. They've got a good team, but they're not a fast team. They're a momentum team. If they get on top early and the crowd get on them, game over. It's hard to quieten and to turn off that Port Adelaide, that crowd that they've got there when they sing the In Excess song and they're all up and about. They know that they're the favourites. They know that if they get a couple of quick goals, we might put our heads down. So the most important thing for us is to start well and to maintain it. We started well last week against Richmond. In terms of that, we won the first quarter. We've won, I think, only 4 or 5 quarters for the season. Even North Melbourne have won more quarters than us. So we need to go into this game and stick at it and be in the game up until halftime. If we can get to halftime and be ahead or close, then the second half is where we can get confidence and kind of make them uneasy. They're going to come into this game thinking that we're just going to be easy beats and roll over like we have a few times this season. But if we can go into the last quarter and be close enough or in front, they're going to feel uneasy. And that's exactly what happened last year when we played them. We were behind for most of the game, but close enough. We got ahead in the third quarter and did not look back in the last quarter. So that's exactly the sort of approach I want to see tomorrow night. Just hope they have a crack. That's from Trudy. Every second half we die off. That's from Jay. Agreed. Like I said, we don't win many quarters. I don't care what half we play well in. We need to just play a strong game for 3 or 4 quarters tomorrow, because that's the only way we can get a win. Sammy says, I think we put too much pressure on ourselves to be the best team at Marvel. We definitely play better when we don't have that pressure. And I think with Adelaide Oval, when you look at the dimensions, I think it's a bigger ground than Marvel. And I think that is better for us. For some reason, I think that we can spread, we can run harder when the ground is wider and longer. With Marvel, it's a bit more congested. Teams can clog us up a little bit and get us on the rebound when we push up, and that's with the new rule, the man on the mark rule. It just plays into their hands, and we just haven't adapted defensively. We don't get back fast enough. We don't work hard enough. We're going to need to do that tomorrow night anyway, but I think with the wider ground, it's probably harder for teams to slingshot one end to the other compared to Marvel or the smaller grounds. But again, being away from home takes the pressure off, and the boys can just go there and focus on the footy and play their best. What else we got? Mark says, Sydney are not expected to play finals, but we were. Agreed, but all the pressure has been on, all the praise, if anything's been on Sydney the last few weeks, and how their kids are amazing and how they've changed their game plan. It's going to take the AFL by storm. I guarantee you that by round 7 or 8, coaches are going to find out how to stop Sydney. They'll watch the Gold Coast game. Similar to how teams stopped us last season. They stopped us getting out the back after Geelong picked us apart. Teams are going to focus on the Bulldogs. They're going to focus on Melbourne, Sydney, the teams that have started fast, and show them up. I love that, if anything, we've got, we're starting from the ground up again. We haven't shown all our cards. We haven't shown all our tricks. We can adapt. A lot of teams, 3 or 4 teams that are at the top have shown their best already. I love that we can still work towards our best, because you need to play your best towards the end of the season if you're going to win the flag. I know we need to get wins on the board, but after this week, we've got Hawthorn, Gold Coast, 2 winnable games, and I think then we've got Geelong and the Friday night. I would have said it's still winnable. They had a big win today, but they do that at Cardinia Park all the time. And then I think we've got the Dogs at Marvel again. So by then, we don't know how their form will be going and how our form will be going. So we can't think too far ahead, but we can win every game if we can bring our best. This one's from Sammy again. Hey Jake, would love to know your opinion on our leadership group. It's a great group, but when shit hits the fan, I don't see them doing too much on field. Collectively even, they need to get together and stop the momentum swings in games. That's the big thing that we just haven't been able to do, and that's why our percentage is so poor. When teams get on top, we let them kick 6 goals straight. We can't let Port Adelaide do that tomorrow. If they get on top, we need to just slow the game down, play tempo footy. We need to actually acknowledge the situation, because I think that's what the best teams do. They know, okay, well, we're not on top here. Let's slow it down. Let's mix it up. Just take the ball out of bounds and slow the momentum. If we try to play fast when Port Adelaide play fast and they get on top, by playing that way, we're playing into their hands by being headless chooks and just playing one way. You want a Dougal Howard, Jack Steele, Tim Membry to just kind of get together, huddle the team together between goals and be like, all right, slow this down, boys. We've got this, deep breaths, let's go at it again. And that's what I thought we did well last year. The deep breaths, the closing our eyes between quarters and relaxing and doing, mindfulness sort of stuff that a lot of clubs don't do. And I think we've not really done much of that this season. So to get back to that would be really important. But I think that it's great that they're, their leadership group, a lot of them deserve it. But when shit hits the fan, that's when you need leaders. And so far, we haven't really seen it. Apart from Jack Steele, who more leads by example and not so much by his words. Whereas someone like Nick Reel would say, hey mate, that kick was shit, improve next time, So we need players to not be as sensitive and to actually take criticism on during games, not just in the review after we get flogged. That's the trend is, okay, we're going to have a serious review on Monday after we've got flogged. Do it between goals. Do it at halftime. Have that serious review and say, hey mate, I've kicked it to you 3 times, you have not marked the ball. Switch on. That's what the best teams do. Should I keep Hill in my Supercoach team? Yes. I'm tipping him to have a big game tomorrow. And for the whole club to really have a big game tomorrow. What else we got? We need to push Hunter Clark into the midfield. That's from Mark. Agreed. He had a great game last week. 33 disposals. I think that's the most he's had in a game. And that was from wing to sort of playing in the midfield a bit more. So hopefully that's the case tomorrow night. We see him in the middle as well. Marx is Darragh Joyce. He's selected purely for bench rotations to give Carlisle, Wilkie, Howard and Caulfield a spell. Remember that Port have monster forwards, Dixon and Georgiades. I think we are a chance. Port are sore, beaten up and have an injury list. Douglas says it's really up to the team to turn the Saints' history around, not for a couple of games, not for most of the season, but to turn it around for every match they play. Stuart says, I think we win in a really close one, 5, maybe 10 points, but we can win it. Love that positivity, mate. Sammy says we definitely aren't handling the new man on the mark rule very well. I think, the season will adapt. It may not be a big thing in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Even, last night's game was a bit congested until the last quarter where Bulldogs kicked 9 goals. And there'll be passages in the game where we can take them on. Then there'll be passages when they're going to have to take us on. And we're just going to have to manage that really well, get players back, work hard, and not be downhill skiers and see, the Dan Butlers and the Higgins just running forward to the ball without getting to the contest. The first thing we need to do is beat them in the contest. We were ahead in clearances, I think, at quarter time against Richmond, and we were ahead on the scoreboard. After that, they dominated us in the middle. They put Pickett in the ruck and took the piss. and they smashed us in terms of clearances and uncontested and contested, and that was reflected on the scoreboard. So if we can break even with against a really good midfield that Port Adelaide have, that'll help us get the ball forward a bit more and put their defence under pressure and give our defence a bit of a chop out. We can't really critique our defence too much after last week because they had 60-odd inside 50s to defend, and when you're clearing the ball and it's coming back in 2 seconds later, you can't even have time to have a deep breath and recover, and get your legs ready for the next contest. You're just absolutely stuffed. So it's up to our mids to have a massive game tomorrow, defensively and offensively, and for our forwards to convert. Because that's what we did very well against Port last season. We kicked 12-1, and that was like the most accurate a team's kicked in AFL history. So, all things went right last year, but we need all things to go right again this year. Mark says, Higgins came to play more midfield. Why are we not trying him there? I think it's probably because we just haven't really capitalised going forward, and defensively in the forward line, what we did so well last year was lock the ball, and Dan Butler was laying tackles every week. He hasn't done that this year. Jack Loney struggled to do that. I think, we've just panicked and said, well, we need Higgins down there because we need someone that can chase, that can mark, that can kick goals. And so far, no one's really been able to do that apart from Max King kicking 5 against West Coast. But I think once we get the rotations right, we get the players that we need ready to go. We've had injuries, so once we get players back, we're able to have those luxuries where we can play Higgins forward and we can rotate Billings into the middle. And Gresham was the player that would allow Higgins to go into the middle and vice versa. We'd rotate them. Now with Gresham going down, we can't really afford Higgins out of the forward line because we don't have that swap for Gresham to go forward pocket like we did when he was fit. So injuries has kind of stopped us from doing that, but hopefully once we find form and coherency within the team, we can kind of have that happening. But right now, I think Higgins is most dangerous as a forward. He's kicked the most goals out of any players for us. I think he's kicked 9. So he's doing his job as a forward. I think we've got, Crouch, Crouch, Steele, Jones back in now. Rowan Marshall coming back. We've got players that can fill the void in the middle. So we don't really need to rely on Higgins going there too much. Declan says, all we want is 4 quarters of good, hard footy. Exactly right, mate. 4 quarters of, I want to see over 70 tackles. I want to see a lot of holding the balls, chasing. Even if you can't make the damn contest, chase hard because of that inferred pressure. Just make them feel like they're under pressure. They're a good team, but they're not the pinpoint passing team like a West Coast or a Bulldogs. They're going to bomb it. They'll panic. They did it last year. If we bring the heat, any team can look shit. We brought the heat against West Coast. They looked shit. Geelong did it. They looked shit. We just need to do that tomorrow night, and everything else will kind of fall into place. I might leave it there, guys. I appreciate you all watching. Big game tonight. I'm looking forward to watching Richmond and Melbourne. Hopefully Richmond get the win and smash Melbourne, bring them back down to earth. But, my focus is on tomorrow. I'm going to be flying over them. I'm going to be cheering hard. So if I see anyone at the ground, feel free to say hi. It'd be great to meet some South Australian Sainters and some fellow travelling Sainters. But it's a massive game. I'm going to cheer very hard. I want the win as much as anything, but I also want the boys to just play hard and to get back to their best and get the confidence up. And I want to see Saints fans love and go into the footy again with smiles on their faces and knowing what they're going to get from the club. But I want our players to look at every other fellow teammate and know that they're going to get 100%, because we can't say that so much, so far this season. A couple of players can hold their heads high, but not everyone. And tomorrow night, everyone needs to hold their head high and play for the jumper and play for the 4 points. And we need that. If we can get to 3-3 and come back and play Hawthorn and then Gold Coast with Paddy Ryder returning, Frawley returning, Geary coming back, it's going to be massive for the confidence, and it's going to be massive for our season. So tomorrow night, it's all about bringing the heat and hurting Port Adelaide, and hopefully that's enough to get the win. But until then, guys, I appreciate you guys watching. I know you've got big Saturday night plans, as we all do. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday night, and I'll see you tomorrow night for the review in Adelaide against Port Adelaide tomorrow night. So until then, guys, have a great night. Take care, and go you Sainers.